Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer.
Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? Guess what? We are not live at Babalu Cigar Company. However, I am live in San Jose, California right now, here at the NVIDIA Chip Conference. My name is Christopher Jordan. I am your host of Dudes and Beer. Welcome to episode 155 of all the things that I prepared. I foolishly did not look at my GUI in front of me and see that I still had our live podcast intro from our 150th at Babalu Cigar on. So big shout outs. Big shout outs to, big shout outs to Jeff Lipton, Babalu Cigars. Huge shout outs to our friends at Hops and Grain. We are coming up on our 1-year anniversary of them being our official beer sponsor of the Dudes and Beer podcast, and we cannot thank you enough. I am here live, as I said, in San Jose. My Spectre is traveling through space and time to be in Austin, Texas, live with Julie and Steven, as well as our guest tonight, Marimar Cole, world traveler, as well as owner of the blog Finding Anahata. And we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about world travel. We'll be talking about what it is to travel internationally, why that kind of stuff is important in life. And what it is that brings you to the point of wanting to do that to begin with. And we will get into that and more right after this. It's time for the news of the week here on Dudes and Beer. And this week has been all about friggin' Facebook, y'all. Because, I mean, of course, like we talked about last week, the stuff with Facebook and the Trump campaign came out. And everybody knows, we talk about it all the time here. Like, I use Facebook to promote the show, don't get me wrong, but they do nothing but sell data. That's all they do.
Yeah, dude. Data mining, man.
They straight up sell your opinions, your thoughts, every single thing about you. And the top story that we have right now out of Politico is that Mark Zuckerberg is expected to testify before a House commercial panel coming up on April 12th. And we'll see, because here recently in time, Facebook admitted that it collects data about your calls and text messages.
Yeah, I feel like that wasn't in their privacy agreement.
Yeah.
Right? But who's read it all? You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
Yeah,
but
I
the
read
thing
it all
is-
once, but years ago.
Yeah.
Every other day.
Here's a challenge. Uninstall Facebook and reinstall it, and when the permissions come up, see if it doesn't tell you that it accesses your microphone and everything else.
Well,
So-
it definitely
I
says
see
it
what you're
accesses
saying.
your
Yeah, yeah.
microphone. Yeah, it
It
definitely
says
does.
It's like
microphone.
just about like any other app you go, in the Play
Right.
Store and all that. You know what I mean? Like,
microphone
Yeah.
contacts and textual input.
even if you get those little
Yeah.
apps with like the manipulate your photo, like, I'm just playing around, but it wants access to contacts, messages, and
And
like,
the microphone, like
it's
the
like, why?
Cartwheel app for Target, it's
Yeah.
like, well, I have to have your microphone to know that you're at Target. Like,
uh,
you can't hear Target specifically.
That's
I call
yeah.
bullshit on this.
Yeah,
So-
dude.
But it's also for people who are like visually impaired, things like that. They can hit the big microphone button and talk it. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, there's
Yeah,
somewhat of a reason. How many times do you voice text? It's the same thing with Facebook. I sometimes go on just for speed and hit the microphone and say what I'm saying and then go back. Not anymore, Steve. I live in the slow lane now.
I always did
But-
part of the Church of Rastafarians.
That's right. I got it right here.
What is that?
Anybody
What was
that
that?
wants to join, it's the Coachella Church. Come and check it out in San Jose. It's fantastic. It's the
What are they-
Coachella Valley Church of the Rastafari. It is where you can go and make sure you get your sacramentals for the proper worship of Jah and meditation
Nice.
in the Rastafari way.
Your tax exempt.
And on that note, as a matter of fact, out of Politico as well, we posted today that Mitch McConnell has backed a bill to ease up on hemp cultivation. Of course,
I saw that.
Mhm.
he is from Kentucky, which back in the day, much like Hempstead, Texas, it was called
Tobacco.
Hempstead for a reason. They grew hemp.
Yeah.
When they stopped making hemp, like Sherwin-Williams Paint almost went out of business. They provided like 90% of the hemp oil for Sherwin-Williams Paint until it was replaced with polymers and stuff like that. So, like hemp was once a huge agricultural part of our country. It was even the fact of the term legal tender meant that you were bartering and trading in hemp. If you were a farmer or a plantation owner, you had to grow a certain acreage of hemp for the government. Clothes were made out of it, everything else. So hemp is a little bit different than marijuana. It's not like a recreational marijuana law that he's talking about. You could smoke like 20 pounds of hemp and you'd probably get high because like you deprived yourself of a lot of oxygen.
The oxygen.
I was gonna say, right?
But
Fake high, right?
the statistic is the fact of for every acreage of trees that
Just
we
hold your
tear
breath.
down to produce paper, we could instead tear down the same 10 acres of hemp and grow that back within 1 year, as opposed to like huge deforestation,
Yeah, where it
taking
takes
out
like
trees.
several years to have
Well,
the trees
where-
come back.
Yeah, I
and-
mean,
That's
to have
almost a
trees,
no-brainer, dude.
to have
Yeah,
trees
it
come
is.
back to even harvestable height takes a good 30 years. So I mean,
Right.
that's a long term
Give me some
process.
hemp paper.
Whereas like if you're growing hemp, like you can harvest it down like wheat, and within 6 or 7 months, it's going to be back to 6 feet tall, ready to be harvested again. One of the other interesting ones that we posted this week from clickorlando.com was Motion reveals that the Pulse gunman's father was an FBI informant. And you were there, Steve. We had
Right.
the episode about Omar Mateen and the FBI
Yep.
and the Pulse nightclub shooting was probably
Oh,
one of
yeah.
our most heated episodes ever.
Yeah.
We had somebody walk out of the show. It
Oh,
was.
yeah, I
it-
remember
it
that one
got,
for sure.
It got hot. It got
Wasn't me.
hot.
Yeah.
And it was not.
It's
It
about
was
Pretty
not.
Julie, yeah.
But headphones were thrown, and
Yeah,
it was
headphones were
it was
thrown,
done.
dude.
It was like,
Man.
Dude.
and the whole thing was that like this dude had been on the FBI watch list not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Yeah.
Why was
I
nothing
remember
done?
I specifically said, somebody dropped the ball.
Like even the first gun shop that he went into and tried to buy like 5 guns and ammunition and like extended magazines for all of them, they were like no, and then they called the FBI and reported him, and they did nothing.
Right,
And now
right.
it comes out that his father is an active FBI informant.
Ooh,
And
wishy-washy.
that's
What's going
just
on
one of
now?
those, like Orange County FBI. I don't know what's up with you guys, man, but there's just always something going on. I don't. It's freaky. It's crazy. And I guess really one of the last big ones was the fact that Daredevil Mike Hughes, the flat earther, blasted off in his own homemade steam rocket. And
Yeah,
lived.
he didn't die.
He made it. He didn't die. I'm working on getting him as a guest for the
Really?
show.
I'm
Oh,
going to be
yeah.
the one to run out of the room that time.
So he's like Billy Bob Thornton making his own little
Well, I mean,
spaceship and all?
It's something special to launch yourself up in a rocket, and that's more than what we'll be talking with him about. However, we gotta try and understand at least where people are coming from. Believe me, like I'm sitting here holding an orange in my hand right now, and like that's a sphere,
Right,
Pretty
like,
easy to see
sure
light
that's an orange?
eclipsing around
that
it.
looks flat to me,
Actually,
Chris.
it's not an orange. You're right.
I was gonna
Steve-O.
say,
That
it
is
looks like a
tangelo.
clementine.
This is a tangelo.
Or yeah, somewhere
Ooh,
other.
the Tangelos are good.
I think the brand
That's
name
a
is
flat
clementine.
Tangelo.
Something like that.
And sadly, everybody, because of the new FOSTA Sex Trafficking Act that we need to have Billy come on and talk about from Radical Empathy. Huge progress in the realm of sex trafficking and stopping sex trafficking. Out of Gizmodo is the headline that Craigslist has officially shut down its personal section due to the passing of Senate Bill.
What about
HR
that one that's way worse?
1865.
The back page.
Oh,
You know?
whatever. It's just that
That's worse.
Craigslist is considered like an open community, like classified ad type situation. And that's the thing, is that kind of stuff can no longer happen in classified ads. You can't do that kind of stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
It's shown all the time, especially up around Super Bowl. Like the amount of sex trafficking
Stuff
on
like-
stuff like that.
What,
Yep.
Exactly. Why is
just
the
skyrockets.
Super Bowl the magnet for that? You're like, what the hell, dude?
Because it's
Formula One is
Like,
too.
it's an
There's a lot of
international
rich
event.
people.
That is so
a lot of
crazy.
rich people. A lot
Like
of
there's an
people with a lot of
event
money.
where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's gonna spike.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, whenever you have, it's the same thing with drugs and everything else. It's not rocket math. When you metrically bring like 30,000 more people into a town for a week
It's
that
an
are there,
thing. Yeah,
that are
it's
there
elevated thing.
specifically
Yeah,
to party.
Okay, I got it now. I got it now.
Like watch
I think
some
that-
Cops Mardi Gras edition sometime. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, Mardi Gras is
Oh
terrible
gosh,
for that.
Cops Mardi Gras dish. Oh dude, that's the
Those are my
best.
favorite ones, dude. They're crazy. So, with all that stuff being considered and all that being in the headlines, we were talking before the show with Mary Mar, and we'd like to welcome you to the show. Welcome Mary Mar Cole, everybody. How you doing, Mary Mar?
Hey, hi, thanks. Thanks for inviting me over.
Absolutely. I love
Oh,
the
yeah.
idea of finding Anahata and what that's all about. We're going to get into that. I'd like to find out from you, first off, what brought you to America? How did you end up here? And where are you from?
Well, I'm originally from Guadalajara in Mexico. I still live there with my two kids. And I've been to America since I was a little girl, the Disney trips and all of that. And my family sent me to be exchange student over to Julie's house, and that's how we met 30 years ago.
Really, that's an
Mhm.
awesome story.
Yeah.
That's
So
so cool.
and we kept in touch over the years, and I visited her here in Austin. This is the second time I've been here.
It is.
So
Got matching tattoos today.
Yes, I
matching-
saw that.
Hey, are y'all serious? That is so cool.
I had this crazy idea. Like
I don't
3
have
years
one tattoo.
ago.
I don't have one.
I had this I posted this like, oh, I wish I had a sister so we can get these matching tattoos. And she's like, oh, you got two. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right, I did.
There's your sister.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and she got it like right away, and I was just kind of like, putting, one thing or other, and then I was coming here, and I just said to her when I got here, it's like, couldn't it be like great if I got mine done by the same person? And she's like, right away, texting me back.
Yeah.
I was like, do you have an appointment? I was like, oh, okay.
You have an appointment.
I can always put a plan in motion for
Jeez.
tattoos.
Julie's getting it done.
Right?
So yeah, we got it done today. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yep. Saw
Well-
Kelly over at Tried and True.
And in your life, you've done quite a bit of traveling. Here recently, you just got done with a trip around the world. Tell us a little bit about that. Number one, what was it that made you want to take the trip to begin with?
I think I got to a point in my life where I just wanted to walk away from everything and have a little bit of perspective, and at the same time, I wanted to learn how other human beings were just being human beings and what I can learn from every culture and every religion. So I just decided to travel. And then I got this ad in Facebook about this go around the world for less than $2,000 in 1 month. And I was like, seriously? And I was like, okay, let me look into it. And I kind of like went into it and called them up, and it's like, yeah, but it's just 1 month. It's like, no, I want to go farther. 1 month is not enough. And so I just started, doing it by myself, and they kind of gave me some tips on when to buy the tickets or when to look for the cheapest ticket and things like that. And you learn a lot. Like, if you want to buy your tickets, look for them on Tuesday and Wednesdays, because that's when the airlines put up all the different sales.
Yeah.
And then fly Tuesday or Saturday because that's the cheapest day. So you kind of plan your trip around like, okay, I'm going to this city and this city. So I was always flying Tuesday and Saturdays, and it was the cheapest.
Tuesdays and Saturdays.
Smart.
Yeah. And
Wow.
a lot of people don't. I didn't know that, so I was like, okay, check.
Dude.
You know, from now on, Tuesday and Saturdays.
This is golden information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like a worldwide thing. It's because like people that want to travel for business normally do it like Mondays to Fridays
Mhm.
or Mondays Thursdays,
Mm-hmm.
and then weekend plans normally are Fridays and Sundays, and some people come back it's Mondays too. So Saturdays end up being a day when nobody wants to travel. So yeah, so that's the first tip. And then I just like took a map and said, oh, there's like 2 rules for this trip. One of them, always go east.
Always go east.
Always go east, and the other one is don't go anywhere you've been before.
Huh.
So it had to
Very
be
interesting. Yeah. Good.
all new cities and all not especially new countries, because I've been to some of the countries I was on this trip, but not the cities I was visiting.
Right.
Sure.
And so it goes. And then try to find as many new experiences as you can. You know, do as many new things as you are able to do it.
Yeah.
Like eating, like I was in India and okay, I'm going to be a vegan in India. Because most of the people here don't eat meat, so let's just go with it and see how it goes. And it turned out like super good. I didn't even miss meat or anything. I just like,
Wow.
the only thing I had was like a glass of milk every morning, and I was like running for it every morning, like, you know, my protein. But that was okay. And then,
Dude, that
like,
is
I've
cool.
never sailed before, and I rented a sailboat in Greece. And it was like, yeah.
We didn't have a sailboat when you lived with us, just the speedboat.
Yeah, just a speedboat. And yeah, so it was like, I learned how to sail, which is like something I've never done. And being in I think it's like Aegean Sea or something. It's not the Mediterranean in Greece, but
The
whatever. It was like 4 days. Like, and
Dude,
no
that's
showers. I was like, if you don't want to shower, you're going to get into the sea. And the sea was like so cold. I was like, okay, maybe one day I did it. So it's like,
You just jump in real fast and jump out.
Exactly.
Done.
So first thing I did when I got to shore, I didn't even had a hotel for that day. I was still living on the sailboat, and I was like, I went to one of those hair salons, like, can you wash my hair, please? And they were looking at me like I was crazy. I was like, oh, you don't understand. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm on a boat for 4 days, and my hair is like full of
All the salt.
salt and sand.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Dude, that is so cool.
Now, amongst your travels, where would you say was the place that you felt most at ease, and why was that?
I think it would be Kathmandu.
Okay.
Definitely.
Oh, I've heard stories about Kathmandu. Yeah.
I think it's one of the poorest places I've been, but the happiest places. I mean, the look in everybody's eyes
Yeah.
is amazing. You
Really?
feel like you're at home. These guys really made like a life experience of
Really?
being there. And they're like, they have these mixture of religion, I have to say, because it's not completely Buddhism and it's not completely Hinduism. And some of them say, I'm half Hinduist, half what is this other world? Like meditating a lot, and then they do this mixture of things, but they all respect each other, and then they
Right.
go to mixed temples. Like, okay, so
Aw.
Thursday is Vishnu Day, so you all go to Vishnu Day, but it's like, okay, but you're Buddhist. Like, yeah, well, it doesn't matter, but today is Vishnu Day, so we all go to that
Really?
religion. And that was
That's
like,
really nice.
What?
That's
That's
refreshing.
really
That's
nice.
almost unheard of, you know, like.
Mhm.
yeah. And finally, I have some friends that I've done also like trips around the world. I've been in several places, and when I said out loud, like, you know, Kathmandu for me was like the best place ever because of the people, not because of the city itself, because
Right.
Yeah.
also the city got destroyed a few years back. I think it was 2016. They had these huge earthquake.
Earthquake,
Mhm.
yeah.
And so it got all destroyed. So you go down, and it's so cute if you think about it. They got pictures of the temples, and it's like, and then all the rocks are there.
Oh,
So it's like, it used to be
man.
like this, and it used to be like, so all downtown is just pictures of how things used to be.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
And
Whoa.
then it's like, oh, we are charging you like $5 for the ticket to go inside downtown to help us out. And I was like, I hope you don't mind. I was like, no, I don't.
Like,
It's just like $5.
Yeah, like,
You're 20,
yeah, like, let me help you more,
Exactly. And then you realize, and then you talk to them, and then the person I was traveling with, she was at that time was complaining a lot about like, oh, the roads are so dirty and people don't clean up, and this place is
like
so
the city got
poor.
leveled
And I
2
was
years
like,
ago.
Yeah, that was one. I was like, who made you judge, And then the guy completely understood Spanish, where I was talking in Spanish with this other person, and he goes like, well, our main economy is based in agriculture because we are a super small country between the two main giants of the world. And I was like shocked by that. So if China doesn't do it, India does. So we're
right in the
we're
middle.
right in the middle.
Right
we
in the
can't do anything about it because we'll do it like, for a very higher price. So we just stuck with local
Wow.
agriculture. So mainly they're farmers.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So that kind of like when you listen to that information, it kind of, it checks you up like, wow, this is
Like-
so true. And anything they want to do, they'll just
It's all
Yeah.
outsourced to
exactly
India or China.
India or China. They're right in the middle.
Ah.
And to top it up, they're like on top of the world.
Mm-hmm.
They're like so high above.
Hence the
Nothing
massive
beats it.
earthquake.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get the best network signals there.
They're-
Sorry, you couldn't survive there,
They could put a
Chris.
satellite up there.
Yeah. I mean, their second income in Kathmandu are tourists trying to go up Everest.
Yep.
Right. Oh, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that does sound about right.
Their,
So it's
their
crazy.
third is,
How many
is
people-
Up Everest.
How many people want to go,
the
up
third
south.
is bringing injured, stupid people down from Everest.
Oh, they just leave them there.
Yeah. Good way of putting that, Chris. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Walk off.
Yeah, exactly.
It costs a lot more money for us to come up there and rescue you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that helicopter ride down,
Exactly.
You need to pay for that if you want to go down. Sorry.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
contract.
Hey, we can haul you down, but bro, that's gonna cost
like
you.
$1 million.
Yeah, healthcare.gov don't cover that.
No.
What was it that that drove you through this trip? What was your driving factor to make it through the end of it? Because how long were you on the road to make this trip around the world? How long and how many countries?
116 days, 21 countries.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
It's,
badass, dude. Dude, that's it.
It's a lot of time. The experience, I mean, learning probably was what drove me to it. I'm always learning something. I'm always trying to be studying something, learning about new things, new cultures, new whatever. And every new city also was like healing a part of me. It was like, for some reason, people ask, why did you chose those cities? I have no idea. One day I just sat down and I said, where do I want to go? I looked up at the map and I said, okay, let's see if this is. Like, for example, Berlin, right?
Yep.
I had this unique experience, I have to say. I don't know if you guys heard of an app that's called Couchsurfing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of it. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I couch surf. I try to do it like at least once a month. I have somebody over in my house, and it's for free. You help them out. You give them guidance visiting your city. So I used that when I was traveling, and I had this crazy experience in Berlin. I got with this guy, and he tried to. He offered me brownies like crazy, and I was like, I don't want brownies. Like, yeah, you should have brownies. Like, I was like, okay, this is just not going into the right direction.
Yeah.
And then he was like a photographer, and I thought it was cool because photographers always know like where are the cool places to take pictures in the city, right?
You would think.
And then he was like, oh, don't you think you want to get like some fun shots with me? And I was like, what are those fun shots? And I was like, oh, God.
Oh,
So
no.
I had to run out of that house.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Oh, take your ass off of that, man.
So, like, fun funny. My brother lives in the Netherlands, and I was with him for like a week and a half, and I met some guys that were from Berlin that were actually friends of my brother's, and I called them up and I say, hey, this is happening, and they're like, oh, you know what? We have people over, but let me see, we can hook you up, and actually I ended up with one of their mom.
Oh, nice.
And the mom was like super stressed, like, oh no, this is not Berlin. Please believe me, this is not what happens. Curiously, the experience was like in the old East Berlin, and and I was after staying in West Berlin. So it was like, okay, I had the Berlin experience of being in the bad side and moving to Berlin, and then just enjoying Berlin all together. It was like, okay.
both sides of those tracks, right?
Exactly.
Holy cow, dude.
Exactly. And,
you know, the interesting thing, we were talking before the show about an understanding of culture and truly opening your mind, not being shut down or shut out to what a different culture believes, to what their practices are, things like that. Traveling 21 countries the way you did in such a short amount of time, how much culture shock was it for you? Going from somewhere like, because, I mean, Greece and Kathmandu aren't an extreme distance apart. So I mean, you were probably there within a week and a half, 2 weeks of each other. But those are some disparate cultural differences between the two countries.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of switching gears and a lot of absorbing things very rapidly.
I guess that I plan it correctly. If I started like traveling west, it would be more shocking for me probably. So by doing it east, Mexico is like a very Catholic Christian country.
Yep.
So flying to Europe, still very Christian, not a lot of them, but still, Western thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then East Europe, then you start going with Orthodox, which is kind of different from Catholic and other Christians. So I actually had to spend Easter there. And Easter is completely different.
Yes.
Actually, even the dates move one day ahead.
Really?
So for them, instead of being a Good Friday is Good Thursday, and then they wait until Sunday, and then the celebration is really different. So what I did is I
completely different calendar.
I actually went inside the churches and did all the ritual for like Good Friday on a Thursday, and it's like they give you a lantern, and then you have to go under a table, and then they slap you, and then you have to kiss.
Are you serious? They slap you?
Yeah, they do. And then you have to light some candles, and it's like, okay, I'm going on with the mood because because the thing is, you want to embrace what's different, and and then people were like, really into this thing. It's like, okay, and then this was in Sofia. And then I went to Greece, and I was in Athens, and it was like the Holy Light or something like that, which was like Saturday night. And I was shocked because I got there and everything was closed. So no Parthenon, no museum, no nothing. Everything is closed. Everything, all the stores. So all you could do was walk around the streets, and
that's their Sabbath.
Yes, it's like everything is completely closed. And at 12 on Saturday, you go to a church with a huge candle, they light it up, and then you walk home with that candle, and then you're allowed to eat. And you've been fasting for the whole Friday and Saturday. So that's how they do it in Greece. It's like, okay, good to know. I did it, and then I got home, and I was doing like an Airbnb in Greece, and these guys, it was a couple of guys, and they had these red boiled eggs. They boil the eggs with like red vegetable painting, and then you crush the eggs, and the one that gets crushed more will have a better year than the other one.
That's cool.
And so that was that.
It's very interesting.
What's
very
interesting
different, right?
is in the Cajun culture, I'm getting ready to actually, right after San Jose, I fly home, and then, like I was saying, I drive straight to my family reunion. And it's going to be a bunch of Cajuns, but we do what's called pocking eggs. And it's supposed to represent the opening of the tomb, things like that, but it's literally taking two eggs and you tap them together, and whoever breaks the other person's egg is supposed to have the better luck out of everything. So
see?
yeah,
Ooh,
it's
you
like
let
the
me know how that
exact same
goes,
thing.
Chris. Let's see who's the winner.
I've seen it here in the States, but they paint the eggs in different colors.
Yeah.
Back there, they just boil them with red
Yeah.
paint.
Yep.
And then from there, I went to Turkey, and then that was like the first time in the Muslim world,
Okay.
and that was an experience because I was going solo. So for a single woman in Istanbul, not a good idea.
No?
No,
I can imagine.
Men get all over you because you're Western.
Oh.
So they think that they are
Oh.
allowed to say things to you
They shouldn't. Like,
that they shouldn't. And
oh.
and fortunately for me, they
I
just
didn't know this.
put on like a tourist police
Oh, wow.
or something like that. So every time
So, like,
I
you have
got
security or
bothered,
whatever?
I just got close to the police, and then there's this guy that was like Aga Sofia, and I just kind of went back to him like 3 times in one day, and he's like, I think you should just get escorted.
Yeah.
They're just running all over you, girl. I was like, what can I do? So from Turkey, I went to Dubai.
Ooh.
And I have some friends that live there, and they actually asked me if you want to have the experience to wear a burqa. And I said, well, that has to be very interesting after what I went through in Istanbul.
Yeah.
And
It
I
get
was
much
just like,
worse.
okay. So
Yeah.
they said,
And the
okay,
couch thing.
so the main thing is you cannot take it on public. If you want to take it off, you need to find some like a restroom or something, and then or go into a store and take it off in like.
You mean you're wearing
change
something you
to-
got to take off? What is it you got to take off?
the burqa. You cannot because it's black and it's, it's covering all over you, and so it's like if you want to wear it, it's fine. It will be an experience, and then but you cannot take it off in the street or in the subway or whatever. You just need to be in a closed space.
Yeah, you can't uncover yourself in public.
Public. I mean, it is Dubai. You can wear wherever you want as a tourist. But so I went with it one day, and it was fantastic. I have to say,
Really?
and yeah. The fact that nobody knew who was under the burqa.
Right.
Yeah, nobody was sexually harassing you for
Yeah,
once.
there you
Exactly.
go.
And then you don't get.
You were an easy target. You look at everybody else, right?
Exactly. They
the
look,
same.
You look just like everybody else.
And totally covered.
Totally covered. Exactly. And it was just, I said, oh, I loved it. I
loved
want to
it.
take one of it home, but it's like, no, if you take it home, they're going to arrest you because you're wearing one of them.
Right.
So this is only a privilege that you can do here when you're in the Muslim world. And I was like, oh, I never thought of it that way, to be a privilege, but now I understand. Yeah. I know there are a lot of things behind it, but I was able to understand a bit, like at least one of the parts of why women in the Muslim world would want to have the burqa.
It was nice for you because you had the option to have it or not have it too.
I think that would be what I would fight for, to have the option.
The option.
Not to be mandatory.
Yeah.
But I think anyways, women will just, given the option, at some point will just wear it. Maybe when you're like 20, you don't want to wear it, but it comes to a point where you just had it. It's just I'm just gonna put my burqa and run to the
How
supermarket.
shitty is that though? That it's just better to cover up because you got tired of being so harassed everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, just maybe stop being assholes, guys.
Yeah, right.
So it's a worldwide thing that I could completely.
Well, and I think it's also the point of most of them are devout Muslims and follow the letter of the law, and if the letter of the law says you're supposed to wear a burqa, that they're going to wear a burqa regardless.
Well,
and
I can tell you, Dubai, it's like being in any other European country, but really. And also there is like the Muslim a part of Dubai and the rest of the world Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's a big difference. And there are like few places where they mixed, like the Mall of Dubai or certain buildings where you can see the Shrek on all the Arabs with all their bodyguards and all these things.
Yeah, there's a lot of money in Dubai.
Ooh,
Oh,
yeah.
and, yeah.
Did you see any
Dubai-
gold vending machines while you were in Dubai? They apparently have vending machines where you can go and buy gold.
Like a gold bar? That's my life Just to own a gold
All
bar.
right, dude,
Yeah.
that's
No.
over the line. You can't
No,
have that.
I'm dead serious. Pick up your phone and
I
Google
believe-
it. I guarantee
No, I
you.
believe
They have
Dubai-
gold bar vending machines.
God, I gotta go
Like,
to Dubai now.
She's not
Like,
looking at the vending machine.
That's what
Right.
kind of money exists in Dubai. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
No, I was more into going to all. I mean, I did appreciate all the buildings and going to the top of the world, the tallest building in the world right
Mhm.
now.
Wow. Cool.
And it was full, right?
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
The thing is, once you're up there, there is like very few visibility because it is the desert, so you don't get to see that far. So
There's
it's
nothing in the
frustrating.
desert, right?
Like,
No,
there's
but
some
the,
sand,
You see that
and then there's
sand?
a lot of dust.
There's
Yeah,
sand
so
there
I can't
too.
see anything.
the sand that doesn't allow you to see that far,
What
and
was-
the
What was it
brightness
like
of the sun.
feeling the sway of the building?
That's it.
Feeling what?
Did the building feel
Did you
it was moving?
actually feel the sway of it at all?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because where you are, they have like really tall crystals, so you can actually feel the air.
oh.
That
Oh,
is-
they had crystals.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's awesome.
Chris, we need to go, dude.
Did you go down the crazy insane zip line in Dubai?
No.
Yeah. There's one that's like I think
I was just there for 3 days, and it was kind of like a stop and rush. Actually, Dubai wasn't in my plans really, but when I tried to fly from Istanbul to India, it was cheaper if I stopped in Dubai.
Oh, that's
So-
weird
Okay.
how that
So
happens.
again, if I stop
Strange.
somewhere, get
You
down,
know? Yeah,
Yeah.
like hang out for a little bit and it'll
head
be
down
cheaper.
2 or 3 days, it's gonna be cheaper anyway.
Mhm.
And I had friends there, so I just kind of stay there.
Wow.
So actually, the person I stayed with is actually like the Julie for my brother.
Aw,
So the sister he had growing up when he was here in the States was the one actually
that's awesome.
hosting me in Dubai. Yeah, it is.
Dubai.
I feel like I was there.
Dude.
Exactly. So I spent one day, in the big buildings, the Mall of Dubai, the penguins, all of these crazy things they have in Dubai, and then another day going to like old Dubai, and
Old Dubai.
Bedouins, is that what they're called?
The Bedouins, yeah.
Yeah, the Bedouins and
Ooh, wow.
all of that part of it, which was I think more interesting than just
The new-
more luxury.
Just, yeah, luxury, money, and
Exactly, money and you know,
luxury.
at the end it's the same thing wherever
You want to see
go.
history,
Right,
right?
yeah.
You know?
You want to see things that give you a little bit more of information about what's going on.
Yeah.
Dubai is just
Yeah.
like a super nice Vegas.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Holy shit.
And then from there, I went to India for 1 month, and that was a shocker, I have to say.
Yeah?
How
The
so?
First of all, it's millions and millions and millions of people all together.
Hmm.
And secondly, there is like the love for chaos. Everything is a chaos and it works out. So when you're coming out from Europe, which everything is so structured and has an order and a law for everything, and then you go out of an airport and then you start looking and then there's millions of people around you, and there is like no actual lanes in the highways. There's supposed to
Yeah.
be, but people can actually go either way
Jeez,
on the
that
highway.
was so
And
stressful.
then there are no lanes. Literally, there are not lanes. There's just a huge
Oh,
pavement thing.
dude. What
When
the
they
hell,
have
dude?
the bus, the truck, the motorcycle with a
The
whole
cows.
family. I've seen like five people in one motorcycle.
Oh, my
actually-
God, dude.
At one point, they picked me up at the airport when I got to Rishikesh. I was like, oh yeah, I'm driving you to the location where you're staying. It's like, oh, okay. Where's the car? No car. You're gonna hop
No
in the
car.
motorcycle. It's like, okay, but I have like a 20 kilos suitcase plus my backpack, and I was like, how are we gonna do this? Oh, don't worry, I have a rope. We'll just and we'll go. And I was like, I'm just one of those pictures, you see
Yeah.
those
Oh my
pictures.
I'm one of those
Yeah.
pictures.
I'm just
Yeah.
one of those pictures right now. It's like, okay, this is India.
Yeah.
Just love it for what it is. And of course, it's like outside of Delhi or like big cities. I was just in Delhi. That was the only big city I was in. But out of Delhi, then there's cows in the roads. And literally, they're just part of it, and
Yeah.
you just go around them, them and
You just go
walk
around.
with it.
Well, yeah, because nobody's going to disturb the cow. It's sacred to them.
Right, that's the sacred animal over there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sacred
So
animal.
only-
So nobody's going to go tell the cow, you need to get up out of the road. Like, really, you need to get up out of the cow's way is what
Yeah.
needs to happen.
It's the Uncle Joe with it, you know? Like,
But
Uncle
if you-
Joe, get the hell out of the road!
then you cannot make fun of them because that's really what they believe in.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's like
Yeah.
you need to completely respect them. So it's like, oh, that's such a nice cow, and
I like the
Turn
resemblance
into
to
it.
your Uncle Joe. Yeah.
And then when I was living in Rishikesh, because I was there, I love yoga, and so I was in Rishikesh. It's like the mecca of the yoga. So I got like
Wow.
certification in yoga there. So I was living there in an ashram, and we had cows, of course, but then we had monkeys, and then we had like a small brown monkeys, which
That's
are the
cool.
ones that steal everything from you.
Oh yeah. And then,
Yeah.
And they go inside your room, and
Mhm.
if you have some food in it, they'll be able to find it. So just lock your room, no food in your room. And then they had these big gray ones with the black faces, which are really aggressive.
Ooh.
But one of them to like me, so he was like,
so you're
oh,
even getting harassed by the monkey.
yeah. It's like, he even patted me.
He's like, you're mine now, pretty
The
girl.
monkey was like doing
Really?
like that, and I was like so scared of moving because they told me these stories about don't move
Yeah.
because if they get violent, they
No
can
quick-
like.
No
You?
quick
Yeah.
movements. He might bite your face.
Yeah.
Like that, and
This
then
monkey tears people apart, but all of a sudden he's patting you.
You're mine now, little girl.
Think this
You're
dude
going
likes
to
you.
sleep so well tonight.
The monkey's like,
Yeah.
photograph.
Yeah, a lot of people I went with it that were just taking pictures. I was like, oh, and actually, the meditation teacher, the yogi who was meditating, she got attacked by this same monkey.
Whoa.
Like a week after I left, and she sent me a text and was like, your monkey attacked me. I think he was frustrated because you left. I was like,
Yeah.
oh God.
He saw her and he's like, nah, that ain't the right girl.
Yeah.
Now, was it your time in India that inspired the name Finding Anahata for your photo blog?
No, it was before that. When I started the trip, as I told you, I wanted to learn how humans actually live differently in the world. That was it. And for me, Anahata, which is like the chakra of your heart,
Yeah.
will be like how people love each other, how they're humans. That's what actually inspired the name of it. Like
Okay.
finding a way of loving and respecting every culture, every religion, every way of being human. And at the end saying it's fine, it's okay, I respect you, and really say it from the heart. Because a lot of people say, oh yeah, I respect you, but it's like from the mouth out.
Yeah.
But inside they're like, oh, they're wrong. If they could only see what I see, it's like, no, I don't want that. I want to say I respect you, and I'm really happy, and I'm really glad you're happy following this religion or eating only, mangoes, whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
if that's what you want to do it, that's fine. And I just want to learn how you do it and how you're happy.
Yeah.
And then move to the next one and then find something else. And at
Right.
the end, I'm like a fruit basket. I have a little bit of everything in me.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Everywhere, every country, and every belief. And now I have like, my kids make fun of me, but my house, I have, idols from every religion.
Awesome.
And
It's awesome.
Yeah.
we eat like food from everywhere. And it's like, oh, I'm going to make,
If only anybody or everybody could experience that and have that knowledge at the same time, like
Yeah,
you've
the world would be
experienced.
such a better place.
You know what I mean? It's a better understanding of
Well,
humanity.
and I can definitely say I know Julie had the same experience I did, and even much more so, traveling. My wife had the same experience spending a semester abroad. It really does give you a different concept of living in general. I remember so many people whenever I got to my semester in Rome that were ticked off whenever we'd get to a restaurant. It's like it was the birth of like the 30-minute lunch rush. you
Right.
know, at Bennigan's and stuff like that in the early '90s. So like they'd sit down in an Italian restaurant and we'd be there for like 20 minutes, you know, and nobody had come to the table. And they'd be ticked off, and I'm like, I don't think you get it. Like, we sat down. That means we have the time to sit down. Like,
Yeah, because in Italy, if you don't, you just go to the counter and you get it real quick.
Yeah,
You sit
yeah.
down, that's a commitment to 2 hours. Like,
yeah, like, exactly. Like, that's the culture. That's what it is.
We starve over there.
It's
Where's
just
my
like
waiter?
in Cajun culture, we have a term called pass by. And if you're ever hanging around with a Cajun and you hear him say like, "Oh, let's just go pass by John's house," get ready to possibly spend a couple of few hours at John's house, like drinking coffee or having a couple beers and stuff like that. But pass by isn't literally like, let's just pass by, like let's stop by, say hi, and take off. Like we're gonna go hang out for a little while, you know.
Yeah.
It's a good tip.
John better
But-
be pretty entertaining, dude.
I'm gonna have some beer.
He better have some beer.
So, amongst all of these travels, what have you found to be probably the most unique place as far as cultural identity and, you know, way of life in general? I know you said you enjoyed Kathmandu the most, personally,
Yeah.
but which one did you find to be the most unique and individual?
Yeah, that's a hard question.
Yeah, that's hard.
Probably, let's say, maybe within Europe, I will say Sofia. No, they have
Okay.
their own culture, their own alphabet, their own even clothing style. And it's kind of shut down geographically because it has like the volcanic mountains, and then it's got like Russia on the other side. So I think within Europe they're pretty unique, I have to say. Then the rest of the countries, yeah, Cambodia, I think.
Oh yeah, I bet. That was a cool one.
Is really, yeah, very unique. Also, I love their temples, their poverty. I don't know, the way they look at life is very different. Yeah.
Very different.
It's interesting that you say that because I had a very, very good friend of mine, Kevin Nessel. He was on my Talking Sound podcast once. I used to do AV work with him, and he moved back to Cambodia. He lived there for a while and helped start a reef conservatory, stuff like that, and just missed doing it. He was like a boat captain out there, and oddly enough, like one of the monitor engineers for Coldplay, things like that. And does
Cool.
all kinds of does
Well, I
all
mean, it's
kinds of
Coldplay. It'd be
work
cool if it was a
with
different
stuff
band,
like
but
that. Well,
I was gonna say,
hey,
it's not like a
you know,
band.
it's still
Coldplay.
pretty. It's still pretty status work, you know.
Yes.
Whenever they're paying to fly you
Bigger than
around,
Jesus.
and you know,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool stuff. But
It's like the
he
90s.
straight up,
Yeah.
he straight up just moved back to Cambodia about 3 years ago. He was like, you know, I can't even anymore. And he took off and went back to Cambodia once he got enough money to do so. Because he was like, yeah, you know, if I save up this much money, I can literally live for like 3 years and have like not a worry in the world.
See,
Right.
that's what I'm looking for, but not Cambodia.
Well, Cambodia's warm weather.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
What's
if you
their
look
religion
at
over
it.
there?
What's the religion?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like a mixture of Hinduism and Buddhism again.
Oh, I could
It's,
probably handle that.
Yeah, and Buddhism is like really easy to go with.
Yeah.
It's like,
Buddhism's
not
pretty easy.
religion, really.
Yeah.
It's a way of living.
It's a philosophy.
Huh.
It's more of a way of life and a philosophy than a.
Yeah, nowadays people
religion.
ask me and I just
Easy to
say
get
I'm
along with.
Buddhist.
Yeah, right?
It's easier to explain being Buddhist than whatever mixture of beliefs I am. So
Now, with your experience, from living in Guadalajara, living in the United States, and traveling and living abroad the way that you did for almost a year like that, traveling 21 countries, what would you say makes America unique amongst those? Is there anything that makes America stand out in your experience? Is there anything that what would you say are the pluses and minuses of America?
The United
Your
States
vast
of America.
experience of
I was saying America is a whole big continent, but
The U.S.
okay.
Yeah.
That's a hard question. America is, I think, is a business-related country. It's good for business and good for shopping. It has a very little history, and
Well, it's young,
it's a young country.
uh-huh.
And the few they have them in they call the Indian reservations.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it's really sad, actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, it is like a good shopping experience.
Yeah, that's all.
A good-
She just
I've
comes
been
up here to go shopping every couple of years.
And no,
Capitalist Central.
I do a lot
Yeah.
of business with U.S. companies. Don't take me wrong.
Right.
I mean, my
Absolutely.
business is related with American companies, and I've worked in several of American companies before I had my own business. So it is more business related
Right.
than what it is. The American
Right.
dream actually is to come here and make a good business and have money.
Right.
End
Yeah.
of story. So
And that's-
worldwide
yeah.
thing.
I like that.
And
End of
it-
story.
And sadly, even when they say it's like a cosmopolitan country, it has a lot of issues within the country, accepting that there's people from different cultures and
Right.
different religions living,
Yeah.
among each other, differently from Canada. I also lived in Canada when I was in university. I did a semester abroad in Montreal, so
I
in
love
Quebec.
Montreal.
So Canada is really different. Canada does have the same cosmopolitan, or even more, but they're Canadians, all of them. They're
Right.
like very like glued together. So, and they respect each other. Like in my dorm, we had people from everywhere, and at that point, I was still like a Catholic practicing. So they waited for me to go to mass on Sundays, and I waited for the Jew to go to Sabbath, and and we waited for the Buddhism guy to do meditation or whatever before we went out partying. It was like at the end of the day, we just
And you just all
we were
respected
in
each other.
college. Exactly, and we knew that Joachim will do meditation from 4 to 5, and from 4 to 5 shut everything up because he's meditating, so no radio, no nothing. And we did, and it was
Wow.
Yeah, that wouldn't
It
happen
was a
here.
mixed
People would
floor.
turn
Wow.
the radio
Like,
up just
very
to be
advanced.
like,
That's beautiful how everybody was thinking beyond their own self in a way,
Exactly.
thinking of outside the box other than the one, which was
Well,
himself.
Yeah.
It's understanding and respecting things within a friendship.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and having a mutual respect for what that person believes and what that person intrinsically believes and how they are. And true, we talk about it on the show all the time. We don't take enough time to do that in America. We don't take enough time to culturally understand the reason why people of other faiths, of other cultures, of other countries believe what they believe, and why we're even having the issues in our country that we're having. If we all took just a moment to step back and try and think about things from somebody else's point of view, you'd be amazed what we could probably get accomplished most of the time.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I think you need to understand that most likely religion is geographically,
yeah,
for
that's
most
all
of
it
the
is.
people.
Yep.
That's what it is. I mean, you are what you are because of where you were born.
Right.
End of story. If you were born in the Middle East, you were even
You'd be
Muslim,
Muslim.
or
Yeah.
Jewish. End of story. That's
Yeah.
And if you were born in India, you would probably be Indian and you would be worshiping 3,000 gods, and it will be good. It will be fine. You will be happy, and that's what it is. So with this globalization of people moving all over the place,
Right.
it's kind of like I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah, everybody's
And
Right, because
everybody wants to
everybody's
be
just-
right, and
it's their
everybody
truth.
wants to have their own truth. And I think we're working it out, as a global thing. We're doing it. It's just going to take time, because we used to be like each culture used to be within their own boundaries, and now we're
Right.
trying to mixing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're taking the world literally. So we just need to give it time.
I think
So
maybe
we can figure it
I don't know,
out.
correct me if I'm wrong, I feel the rest of the world is probably ahead of us on that. Would you say that? Like here in America,
the United
we're having...
States, yes.
Yeah. We're
Yeah,
having-
I was talking to Julia, and I said, because she was asking if Americans were liked in the rest of the world. And it's like, I don't know if they're disliked, but I don't think they're their favorite, person right now.
Yeah, no.
They see you as the abusers of the world. So the rest of the world will just, they say America claims to be something, and they're exactly the opposite.
Yeah, land of the
Yeah.
free, but
Right.
we don't actually
I
let
can only,
people
I
be
can only
free.
imagine putting myself in these other countries, like the ones you've went to, and they're seeing our news and all the junk we're
Well-
going through and our headlines, and I would be like, what are the, I would be like, these Americans are crazy,
Well, it's
Like-
a lot of it is like we talked
happens
about on
everywhere.
the show. It's the straight hypocrisy of our country. Like you just said a little while ago, America is, and that's what most people don't understand. Like, sure, there's the American bravado. Hell, I'm from Texas. You can't get more bravado than that.
True.
Because we were our own country before we became part of the United States.
5 whole
Started-
minutes.
You were part of Mexico, then got independent
yeah,
for 5 minutes,
yeah.
and then
Doesn't
moved to
matter.
the States.
Yeah, exactly.
That's called convenience.
Mm.
Hey, man, it was not convenient. Remember the Alamo.
Yeah, and it's just one of those. As a young country, it's amazing the influence that it's come to have for some odd reason. And once I traveled abroad and lived abroad, it was really a different understanding that I came home to whenever I came back to the United States, and the understanding of why most of the world looks at the United States differently. Because, like, I'm sorry, Rome has been a society for 2,000 years,
More.
Right.
Yeah,
A lot more.
easily. So, easily more. And, like...
Yeah, because they had a lot of BC before the AD. So, yeah, a lot more
Yeah.
than 2,000 years.
Yeah. And, we as a country, even with the Native Americans, have done some pretty horrible things in the 200 years that we've been a country.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least a declared country with the Declaration of Independence, all that kind of stuff. There was, of course, everything else in the 1600s, all that kind of business. But,
Right, that's kind of where the badness started, like
that's
right
where
off the bat,
horribleness
really.
started. Yeah. And, even if you go into, like we were talking about earlier in the news of the week, like the concept of like indentured servitude to begin with, the fact that you traded
Indentured.
yourself
Right.
and your personal services
Or debt.
for your passage to the country, like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that's straight up what happens with sexual trafficking. Is people like
Yeah.
trade themselves in the sexual trade in order to be able to get to the United States, and then they end up or to Thailand or to wherever, and lo and behold,
See, I thought they
never
were. I
end
thought
up
they were
getting
more
out.
forced to. I didn't realize that they're still indentured today, which
Oh.
meaning they're willing to
Well,
Yeah, I have the
I
same
didn't
idea.
realize that
they don't
was
know
yeah.
what they're really
They
like.
they don't know
indentured
what they're
for,
actually.
no.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
Right.
coming here to do a different job, and then they're getting kicked
right.
off.
I've always heard kind of
Yeah.
like the swindling of the thing is like,
Right.
oh, a good
Well,
job and a job
no,
or something.
it's-
Right, and then like we won't pay you for
Yeah,
a little while. Like
they
the
take
nail
your
salon
passport. They got
actually
you by the
just-
cojones at that
Well,
point,
Right.
and then
well,
it's like you're
the-
at their
it's the devil's promise or the genie's blessing. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, I want 1,000 pounds of gold. Great, and then
Yeah.
it falls on top of you. You know,
If it's too good, if it sounds too good to be true, then it is.
Well, it doesn't though. Like they're offering them a bad situation to start with, but it's better than where they are, and then they take them somewhere that's just as bad or worse than where they are.
It's always preying on people's emotions.
Exactly,
and
it's just on vulnerable people.
Vulnerability. It's horrible. It's horrible.
Wherever they are is obviously much worse, and then they come here thinking it's going to be better, and then it just continues to be terrible for them.
You always have that one person trying to one up and one step ahead that manipulates the other one. It's like, it's horrible, dude.
Well, and that's one reason why I want to have Billy Joe Kane back on to talk about that.
Yeah, he was great. He was the VR guy, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he was great.
Radical Empathy. Empathy. Go check it out, folks. They had the awesome game Captured, where it was literally.
That's what it was called. Liam was asking about that again.
Is that the one I played in here?
On your birthday.
I've never did that before, and it was on my birthday.
VR,
and I had this thing on my head, and I was like in this other world, and I'm like, none of this was here, and I'm like touching things.
And I'm failing miserable. He had to pick something up and move it.
Oh
and
God, I never did it before. I never did it before. It was like, how do I do this? You know, like, oh, you gotta
It was so good. Oh man, it was awesome.
It was so freaking cool.
Well, and you know, just to kind of go a little bit deeper into your international roots and your family in Guadalajara, stuff like that. Your father actually spent some time in Mexican politics, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So in that area is quite a bit of cartel country, things like that. So you were saying earlier before the show that you even had a bodyguard, stuff like that, that followed you around to make sure that you were safe, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. My father was mayor of the city. And he did. A few times he got life-threatening messages. And so that so we had somebody following us all the time. It's not as fun as it sounds. Actually, it's the other way around.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
Private life.
Yeah.
People might think that, being the daughter of an important politician or whatever is so fun, but actually you don't have a private life.
You don't have private.
No, exactly.
And your dad finds out everything you do. And you have to remember that this was 20 years ago. I was in college, so that was no fun.
No.
He finds out everything in the morning security briefing.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was telling them before the show that one day I was out at a bar and they gave me these shots for free, right? And I was like, good, right? So you drink them up, and next morning he wakes me up at 6 a.m. in the morning with the receipts, like, you owe me this much. And I was like, why? Because I don't want to owe anybody any favors, and you drink this, right? So it's not for free. And I was like,
I'll give you $20.
I don't want to owe anybody any favors. Oh, no.
That's it.
Well, you can't in cartel country. You can't owe people favors. That's
exactly.
Deadly.
And it was the cartel phrase, especially used by Pablo Escobar and the Sinaloa cartel, stuff like that. Plato o plomo, silver or lead. They either paid you off or they put out death threats against you. So
we're drinking some shit.
Kudos to your father for the work that he did as mayor down there in Guadalajara. What is it like living there? Because I know I've been to different parts of Mexico, but much more border Mexico, right across from El Paso, things like that, back in my youth. But
well, normally, it's very calm city. You can come and go. It's okay. Lately, we have these cartel wars. And lately, I'm saying like in the past month.
Yeah, since February.
Oh,
since February. Recently. There are two cartels. The one was like that owned the city, so to say, and the one that wanted to get inside. And so we are having executions, a lot of them on a daily basis.
Oh, jeez.
So there's a certain parts of the city that have a curfew, but hopefully the governor said, oh, I got a message from the cartel and there's just cleaning up and there's nothing we can do, so we just have to wait for them to finish the list. And
Seriously?
everybody was like, oh, thank you. That's like,
Yeah.
It's so nice to hear from your governor,
Like, we tried, but we're
We
just going to have to let them
tried,
keep killing people till they're done.
And other than that, you don't get anything else. So, but normally it's known to be the city of the cartel's families. So it's like everybody behaves in the city because their families live with you, and the neighbor or whatever, it's the son of this and that. Everybody knows it. But nobody does anything about it because nobody wants to get
Yeah.
cartels.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
think about it.
Yeah.
If your neighbor was the son of El Chapo or El Güero Palma, whatever, you wouldn't do anything. You just would go about saying good morning and good afternoon. And
Yeah,
that's it.
exactly.
Come
Yeah.
on.
Hey, Chapo, you need me to come mow your lawn or anything today?
Yeah.
Buddy, what's going on?
You go along with it. You just say hi, good day, whatever, and just don't get involved with them.
No, dude, he wakes up in the morning, you knock on the door, and you just tell him already, dude, hey, bro, I mowed your lawn today.
Right?
Just to let you know it's already coming. I mowed
Don't worry
it.
about it. I
Yeah,
got
don't even worry about it, bro. Yeah, I got you.
I got you on this. I got you.
He's
on
barely
this.
having his cup of coffee, dude, and you're like, yeah, I already finished, bro. No.
I went to work for you too. You're fine.
No, but I've heard, I don't know at what point or what part of Mexico, but there was this one story that I remember, the school bus of kids that got killed, college kids, I believe, if that, or maybe, but the whole town or whatever starts standing up. People just started saying, dude, y'all fucking killed our kids or whatever. They're like, we're just tired of it. They're like, maybe simple people or simple lives, but they were like, no, we're taking this back. And they're like, grabbing whatever, and they're like, no, we're tired of this shit. Like, what happened to our kids? And then they like killed them, threw them down in a ditch and all that, and they had all that evidence or whatever. But it's like,
and they found them like 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah, all that, because I think they were protesting against something or something. They had a belief against something that they were doing and stuff. And then there was a mayor involved at the time too, the mayor of the town, and it was like
That's probably a much smaller town than Guadalajara.
Yeah, but
it is.
But it's the corruption that goes on, and it's like you can only push people so far. And then it's the ones that are like in the agriculture. It's the ones that have the rake and whatever, and they don't know, but they band together that, hey, we've had enough, bro. We've had enough, man. And then it's like, whoa, okay, now we got all these people now against us. The whole town's coming up. It's like, well, what the fuck did you expect?
I have to say, cartels are very smart. Cartels, what they do is they help towns, complete towns.
Yeah, they
give
do
them,
actually.
Potable water.
They do.
They give
Remember
them
the vaccines?
electricity.
They do, yeah.
They give vaccines.
Oh, built up,
They built up hospitals
Dude.
to lend the money. They are very smart.
He did more than the government.
They have the people back up.
Yeah.
So normally, everybody knows where they are, but the people, nobody says nothing because they take care of the people.
Yeah,
so that's,
So in a way, that's like,
Exactly. And like going back to what's happening on my city right now, people know that if you're not involved with the other cartel, you will be fine. The only problem is that if you get into a crossfire and then other than that, they're not going to mess up with the people.
Right.
Just might mess up your traffic, like trying to get home with Laredo currently closed.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen cities where El Chapo built so much for them, and they were needing things.
He's not doing it for a nice reason. He's doing it to keep
to
people happy.
them, it's what they needed, and the government wasn't providing. And it was like he gave. He was able to do this for
the guy that kidnapped the nurse and made him vaccinate the whole village. I'm sure you heard.
It's
kind of
like. The devil's giving you, what you want.
Devil's promise.
If you're a good engineer,
Yeah, they kidnap you and they make
They kidnap you to make the tunnel so he can escape from jail, you know.
Well, they kidnapped Sylvia's brother because he was an EMT to make him, like, save a guy with a gunshot, and then when he was done, they gave him back.
They kidnap doctors all the time.
Not that great.
And then they actually tell them, if you don't save him, we're going to kill you. It's like,
Yeah.
he's got gunshots. So what can I do? And it's not like
Even-
they take him to a hospital. They want you to do that on, like, you know, on the living room of somebody else's. I was like, oh, that's scary.
Even our guest star Sean
kidnap whatever
McCleskey.
they need.
I'm sorry,
That's
go ahead.
realistic. No, I was just saying they kidnap whatever they need. I'm saying
Right.
they need a
Right.
doctor, they kidnap him. They need
They're
an
not
engineer.
benefactors.
And like you said, like,
They
hey, this
come
guy.
nicely and ask you, hey, we'll pay you $1 million to build
No.
the tunnel
They're
so the
like,
chapel can
No.
escape.
do it.
Or we'll shoot your whole family. And then,
Yeah.
sadly, what happens is afterwards they end up shooting you anyway because
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know where they are, you know their plans, you
Yeah.
know a lot of things.
You've already
Like,
seen everybody. You went to the bathroom outside, so you saw the buildings. You know, yeah.
Other
And-
family that stayed with us from Mexico that wasn't Marimar's family, when I was visiting them in Mexico, because I lived there for the summers when I was in middle school,
Yep.
they got kidnapped by the cartel while I was there, and they held him for 8 months. And then the next summer when I went back was when he escaped. So, like, the first summer we were all under lockdown. Second summer, like 2 days into when I was there, he had actually escaped from the cartel and came back to his house. Like, that shit is...
And it,
not
I mean,
a
it
joke.
reaches straight
Not
to our
nice.
doorstep right there in Austin. You know, our guest star Sean McCleskey, former Secret Service agent who worked in the fraud division in the field office in San Antonio, told us an amazing story about, like, one of the most famous Mexican restaurants there in San Antonio. Been there for 30 years, and one of the head maitre d's apparently still had family that lived south of the border, and the cartel got a hold of him and held them hostage and said, if you don't skim credit cards for us, we will kill them all.
Oh, man.
Like, kidnapped all 10 of his family down there.
Hopefully they're not listening to the radio,
And,
internet
you know,
radio right now.
Well, this was a few years back, but you know, like, the guy had a skimmer, like, in his apron, and for 5 years was skimming credit cards for the cartel. You know, like, it's something that actively happens all the time.
So when you guys get travel advisories about the U.S. being dangerous when you're in Mexico, do you just laugh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, going back to my Finding Anahata trip, people were saying, aren't you afraid of going by yourself? And I was like, you're kidding me? I'm from Mexico. What should I be afraid of? I mean,
I'm good.
Okay. It's like, yeah, but something can happen to you. No, you don't understand. Back home, I can't walk by myself anywhere. It's just like, it's something you don't do after certain hours. And with traveling, it's like, I was never afraid of, you know, something happening to me. And I was in, like, you know, pretty poor places or countries pretty far from civilization, and I was never afraid.
Yeah.
No, what happens when I'm back home? And when I'm back home, I drive, like, my windows are always up in my car. I never pull them down. And this is a security reason. And
Sure.
Well, you said
It's
that
stupid,
people
but
threw
it
rocks
is.
at your car just the other day.
yeah, they
Well-
did. I was just, you know, waiting for my turn to pass, and yeah.
You know, it definitely is learning that different presence of mind. You know, like, if you don't have to carry a purse or a backpack or a bag, don't carry it. You know, like, don't make yourself an active target for mugging, for you know, that kind of activity, and it can help you out that little bit. But,
There, that's probably not what the focus is, right?
No.
Like to steal your purse.
Yeah, like for kids, it is. Like my kids, if they're walking around, it's always like your cell phone always has to be inside one of your pockets. Your headphones will have to go through your clothes, so they cannot get you not like expensive watches or watches that look like they're expensive. Because nowadays you can find watches that look like they're expensive. They're not that expensive. They're wearing them and they just
they think
want
that
them
they're-
for that.
On the Wish app.
And,
Or even sneakers. They get them for the sneakers. They just come
Yeah.
across and they
Oh
put
yeah,
a knife
sneakers
to
used to be a
them.
big deal.
Maybe
Yeah.
And
that's why Uwe
yeah,
was wearing
they
his
get
shoes
their
the other day.
sneakers.
He just didn't want to tell you.
Not just that.
You got those Air Jordan shoes. Boom.
There,
You know what? Yeah, you know what I mean.
Like
Yeah.
sneakers and watches and phones, and that's a big
Mhm.
thing for like
Yep.
high school kids.
And
Yep.
there's not just that, but there's the
Or their
range of
iPad.
new street drugs like Paco and stuff like that, which is
Man.
it's kind of like a really, really cheaper form of crack, but like 10 times more addictive.
Oh,
Um,
good.
Oh,
Yeah.
great to know out there. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and it's slowly worked its way into Mexico here in the last couple of years, and things like that. It does incrementally change the way that you think about your awareness, and like you were saying earlier, as someone who's yearned to live that healthy life, to learn to shed as much of that stress. Like I said, like, good Lord, you want to know what's wrong with our country right now? Take a look at the stress that we all live with the headlines on the daily, in the world around us to begin with. And that's enough stress to make most people sick. Like I used to tell my mom all the time, you want to know why you don't sleep well? You fall asleep watching the news. And then the TV's still on while you're
That
asleep.
energy, that frequency, all
Like-
that bullshit.
Yeah, the
No,
yelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
that's
just that.
terrible.
Bullshit.
She lived in Houston, man. Like, it's an hour of who got murdered where.
Yeah.
Just an hour of that before you get to the weather and all
I
that.
remember at one point she told me, she was like, because, I worked with rock and roll, and I worked at clubs, and I was out until 2 a.m. Be careful, baby, okay? Like, this woman got killed just up the road the other day at the do-it-yourself car wash at like 12:30 in the morning. And I was like, okay, no offense, who the hell is washing their damn car at 12:30 a.m.? At a
Somebody that
do-it-yourself
works
car
during the
wash?
day?
Like, I guess, but 12:30 a.m. is a pretty odd time to go just wash your car to do it yourself car wash.
Well, that's common sense. Where you should take care of yourself and
Probably
be
she wasn't there
knowledgeable.
washing her car.
You
Probably
shouldn't be
she
going
was
at that
just-
hour. Not to say that any time is,
especially
you should be able
somewhere
to.
that like has gang activity, has things like that, has muggings, has that kind of
Well,
stuff.
that's everywhere now. It's kind of impossible
is.
to. You should just kind of live your life and be smart about it, but don't worry about it too much.
Well, and that's just it. You really cannot let it rule your life. You can't live your life via fear. You have to do much like our guest Mary Mar has done, and go out and live life fearlessly. To make sure that you're actually living life to its utmost, that you're trying to put out the best thing possible and the best idea possible, because it is a metric concept.
I've got a question for Mary Mar. What was the place that you felt you were most endangered in?
Berlin, right?
Yeah.
No, actually, yeah. Well, that's the second one.
That's
That's
the creepiest place, apparently.
It was this Syrian refugee camp in Athens.
Oh, you visited?
Yeah.
I visited there,
That's
and
nice.
yes,
Yeah.
people
happened?
looked at you at some point with so much desperation.
Yeah.
Wow.
In their eyes, and so much hunger and sadness, and it was so scary because I was there just walking with. I just had my bag, not even my backpack, but I was just with the fewest things I could carry, because I was sometimes I walk like 10 miles, 12 miles every day, so
Wow.
it was the fewest you could carry with yourself. And I was there, and people were just staring at my bag, and it's like, and it got scary to a point where you kind of just put it up. I went outside and took a cab, and that's when you're traveling. Taking a cab, it's expensive.
Yeah.
So you normally move just by public transportation, and I didn't want to wait for the bus or the metro or the subway, whatever, to come by. I was just
You just had to get out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I needed to go.
That was the scariest
That was
place.
the scariest in Athens,
In
huh?
Athens, but it
Wow.
was in the Syrian refugee camp.
Yeah.
So it was not Athens itself,
Right.
but Greece has the greatest problem because Greece is taking most of the refugees,
Yeah, they
and
have
then
least
from
money.
Greece they go to different countries in Europe. But like the bulk of the refugees get there and
Yeah.
get to that camp.
Yeah.
So that camp is huge,
Huge. Wow.
and it's full of people really just
Yeah, without
Yeah.
any
looking for a reason to
resources.
live with no
Yeah.
resources. You know, they're just
Oh.
scrapping for a piece of bread every day. So
And
it's
see, that's
it's
Oh
scary.
my gosh.
that's
Yeah.
an issue that we've literally just, as a society and as a people, just kind of moved away from.
Yeah, which is terrible that we kind of just forgot about it and moved on to the next thing.
You
Like,
know?
it's still a huge problem.
Dirty laundry, like
Well,
the guy.
a lot of it has to do with the fact that, like, yeah, it's dirty laundry. Like, we have some active involvement with the
Right.
arming of the rebels in Syria and shit
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. Like, the whole
We all-
Benghazi thing happened because there was like an arms deal that brought gas weapons across the border to Syria to
Right.
like.
And then we also actively
rebels
won't
and
take
stuff like
refugees,
that.
so we're like double causing worse problems.
So like
Oh,
not
yeah,
only
absolutely.
are we like big time capitalists and like good for shopping and stuff, but we always instigate a lot of bullshit.
Oh,
Yeah.
we do.
That's our new
You
We
tagline.
like to stir the pot.
Yeah.
That's our new tagline. America,
Yeah.
good for
Problem
shopping.
and then run away.
You know, and you know
It used
that.
to be the melting pot, now it's just the stirring pot.
Yeah.
Can we just replace all the stars with QVC?
Hollow stars.
It's good for shopping. That's
Yeah.
what it's good for.
America, spend your money here and then leave. We don't want
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Just like Austin. Just like
Yeah.
Austin. Come
Okay,
for
I
the
got another
festival,
one.
then go home.
What was on the opposite end of that spectrum? The place where you had the most fun.
Prague.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, Craig, did you hear that, Chris?
Prague, and it's so cheap there, too.
Prague
Yeah.
or Prague?
Oh yeah,
Prague.
Best beer, cheapest beer.
absolutely. Absolutely, man. You can live like a king in Prague. It's
I met this wonderful girl from Argentina when I was in Dresden in Germany, and
Uh-huh.
we were both going to Prague on the same day, and I just kind of like said when I said, "Oh, I met you at the clock, you know, this astrological clock in Prague,
Yeah.
which is very famous."
oh
He's like,
yeah,
"Oh,
it's awesome.
he was going by bus and I was going by train. We didn't exchange any Facebook or phones or anything. And at noon, there we were, both of us. It was like,
What?
yeah,
That
so
is
we kept in
cool.
contact. So we did all of Prague together.
Yeah.
And I had the kid of one of my neighbors, right? He's like 21. He came to Europe for a summer and he got some reference, and then he's been going back every summer to work at one of the pubs. So I kind of text him and say, "Hey, his name is Carlos." So it's like, "Hey, Carlos, I'm in Prague. So what should we do?" It's like, "So how far do you want to take the party?" Right? It's like, just give me a whole itinerary, and when I'm done, right? Like, okay,
Oh,
so tell me where you
like,
start. And then he said, "Okay, so you start at 7 here, and then you move at 8 and 9 and 10."
Oh,
Yeah, and it went all the way to 6 a.m. It's like,
Oh,
okay,
that's
let's go.
great.
well, no. That's what's great, and you can do all of that without moving more than like 4 miles in radius.
Really great is you can actually walk through
I was
the
gonna
city.
say, it's like walk.
Exactly. No.
And nobody will look at
Yeah.
you, will harass
No.
you.
It's
pretty
and
safe,
it's
yeah.
super
No.
safe.
Frank just
Yeah.
lived in Prague for a while.
Chris,
Yeah.
there we
That's
go.
what's
No, dude, believe me,
amazing.
like Prague is one of my favorite cities that I've visited in Europe. It was absolutely amazing. It was one of the only places. Well, Euros. Granted, I went to Prague long enough ago that Euros didn't exist.
Over there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that exchange rate was crazy
It was-
back
So
then.
It was
Party for-
pretty
Yeah.
sweet. Like,
Nice.
The
like
really
you
good place to party is Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Really? That sounds cool.
Hong Kong's probably a little bit more expensive.
I've been
though.
wanting to
Yeah.
do something over there.
No. Hong Kong is more expensive, like a lot more expensive.
More expensive.
But yeah, it's
But worth
also a party city.
And also fairly clean and fairly safe, right?
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can walk at whatever time around Hong Kong.
Wow.
That's why we're a little bit spoiled here too, because while we definitely have our
Good info.
shootings and mail bombings, like you can pretty much walk around and you're safe, and it's not like
Yeah.
you can
those
do
are-
what you
well,
want with
that's
like
just
quite
it.
a bit of
Those are rare circumstances. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
like Mary Mar was saying earlier, she stopped listening to the news and stuff like that years ago because all she heard was horrible things about politics and things like that. And her family was involved in politics, and she was like, "That's not what's going on. That's not what it
even
is.
true. I wasn't
You
even
know,
wearing
like
that today.
That's not even true. You know."
Now that I'm wearing it, there was a huge thing about something that I was wearing one day all over the news.
Cover up, Mari Mars,
Yeah.
the Catholic history.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and next thing you know, there's the paparazzi snapping shots, and
I'm not even in that thing. Let me wear whatever I want. It's like, no, you can't.
Nope.
no,
Later.
technically you can't exactly, and
So-
it's
And famous people when they get tired and they just, knocked out the camera guys. I was like, yeah, you get tired of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you make a living out of it, it's like,
Especially if it's not
absolutely. And
if it's your family that's put that on you.
and to that
Exactly.
note, can you even blame people like Michael Jackson for covering their children from camera?
no.
Hmm.
I completely understand that.
I fully understand it.
That burqa thing. Just put them a burqa and walk right in. They wouldn't even know who it was who.
Yeah.
Well, and
I
that
guess-
was
For sure, yeah.
that was even one of
Yeah.
the topics that we brought up with our guest, Arshawn McCleskey, the former Secret Service investigator. Was at what point will we have like a digital age of consent? You know, where much like parents have been sued for misusing their kids, like Tiffany sued her parents for misusing her money that she made when she was
Talking about
underage.
Tiffany from the 80s that performed
Yes,
in the
I am.
mall.
Yeah,
Okay,
because
yeah,
her
yeah.
parents were opening her mail, stuff like that. They were cashing checks
Yeah.
and misusing her money before she was 18. And that was a landmark case for emancipation of children. But when you're talking
go.
about a digital age of consent, like that's one reason why I'll post a picture of my kid online, but I never use his name when I post the picture.
No, you don't have to. AI's got that shit.
AI can do whatever it wants, but
no
it's
faking
gonna-
that right there.
No
we all know
faking
it's
that.
baby D.
it's gonna. Oh, I'm not denying that I'm the dad. Come on. But I mean, it's the fact of I'm not gonna give it the easy route of hey, here's his name tagged to the picture. Like I'm not gonna tag his
Not
face
making it easy.
or at his name or put
Right.
his name into that database. It's
Yeah,
one thing
or
to be
giving them
proud.
already social media accounts when they're
You
babies.
know,
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, no,
Dude,
like
well, who the hell is
that's
doing
just
this?
it.
Oh.
This
That's
is
just
no,
it.
that's yeah, Julie just hit something that was just like, you know what? That's no,
And that's
they
just
shouldn't be
it.
doing
At
that.
what point
shit.
where there'll be a digital age of consent where it's like, you can't post this stuff on behalf of your child. You can't post a picture of your child because they haven't given you that's biometric data.
alternate
Yeah,
reality.
pictures of your kids up
That's
really.
bullshit. Like
On your
Julie was
Facebook?
saying that people have fucking their kids
I do
you
all
know
the time. I don't
already
care.
kids are having
If you go-
you know
If you go on to the Dudes and Beer Facebook, group, I posted an awesome video from the conference that I'm working. A couple of them. One of them is a video of live wire mapping. So as you walk by the camera, it literally
Right.
like gives you a wire map, And if you
Right.
like, it wire maps you out like a stick figure, like what they do for
Oh
3D
yeah.
animation.
Oh yeah.
It's
Okay.
freaking
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
And then the
All right.
one next to that is another camera that puts active emoticons up above your head.
Right.
So, like, if you're walking by and you're laughing, it's like a little laughy face.
It's like the Doctor Who episode
And
where if
dude,
you're frowny, they murder you.
Dude, literally, this guy this morning as I walked by was sitting there texting, and he had like a
Got it.
little angry red face over his head, like while he
Oh,
wasn't
no,
even
that
looking at the
freaks me out.
camera, dude. He wasn't even looking at the camera. He was looking down at his phone, and it was like, yo, that's creepy. But if you watch the video, you'll see me step into it and give it a couple faces. And then at the end, I kind of give it this face, and it goes to the creepy red, and then I stop it.
See, because then they're gonna murder you. Like there's a whole thing on Doctor Who, which I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with, where
Yeah.
they go to this. It's supposed to be like a new outpost for humanity, and there's nobody there anymore because their butlers were confused because they could sense your mood, and then they would try to make you better. But if you were
Right.
too sad, they didn't know what to do with it, so they just killed everybody. But as you kill more people, then obviously everybody else gets sad. So then they just killed everybody,
everybody.
because everybody was sad, and the doctor showed up and was like. And like, but they turned them into fertilizer, so it was like super lush. It was
Oh well,
crazy.
Oh my God. They became
that
Soylent
justifies
Green.
everything.
Yeah, no,
It's okay
that-
if you
so
kill
there were
people
no
because they're fertilizer.
Like it was crazy.
Dude.
But like, it's like Black Mirror. You can see with this being
Yeah,
able to
no,
gauge
no,
people's
totally.
emotions
I
as
just-
they walk by. And
I
give them
actually
an
just saw a
emoji,
recent
like-
movie, which is kind of recent, actually. Whatever it is, I
was
can't
that?
say where I watched it. Anyways, it's called Ex Machina, and
yeah.
EX. Yeah, you've probably seen it.
No, I
Julie?
haven't, but I've heard
Years
it.
old, sure.
Oh yeah. But anyways, it's a good one. It's all it's all on that same level of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because the guy who's like whatever doing behind all this AI stuff is using all this that like say like Snapchat, what we're doing now, Skype, all the stuff with face recognition is taking this all AI is absorbing all of this to just make itself better, you know. And that's all the whole purpose of all these little apps of throwing it out there, you know, like Snapchat this or whatever that, and all this video this and that. And it's just AI just sucking it all in just to make it more human, just to make it more whole and of a better AI.
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing just sitting back and listening to the keynote at this conference today. I absolutely geek out. Like, I was so jealous today as I walked up past one of my rooms, and I went in just to check on things, make sure things were good, make sure the client was happy. And I looked up, and it was like using using GPUs, graphic processing units, like video cards and stuff like that, for live mapping of the solar surface. And it was like, oh my God, look at that. Like, that's like the moving plasmic field of the sun up on the screen right now. Like, that they're like live mapping. Like, that's just crazy. It's nuts.
They keep
So-
taking it to another level.
Yeah, it's some wild stuff, and that's what we have to remember, is that we as a society, not only here in America or in Mexico, but as a world and as a
Global
people and as a
society.
humanity, are moving into something different. Like Art Bell used to call it the quickening. There's something that is moving us to a shift. And it's a
We can't
global
we can't even keep up fast enough with the technology that's coming
Yeah.
out to even keep up with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
It's-
shit keeps popping out, and we're even like the learning curve of it. You know what I
Well,
mean?
even to talk about GPUs and graphic processors and NVIDIA video cards, like, good God, like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we covered the news story of the town in New Jersey that banned Bitcoin mining because
Yeah.
people were
Oh, yeah.
stacking so many video cards that it just became a tax on the friggin' energy system and the electric grid in the town. Like,
That's
they
great.
started having brownouts and stuff from people trying to mine Bitcoins.
That's
So,
crazy.
it's it's a different dynamic that we're talking about politically. It's a different dynamic that we're talking about ethically as we grow as people, and as we grow not just as a society and a humanity, but as a digital society and
Right.
humanity. And I want to thank our guest tonight for coming in. Thank you so much, Mary Mar. Your experience with world travel and with cultures, religions, things like that is so expansive and so great. I'd love to have you on more, especially with our Skype. We can call Canada.
That's
we can
true.
call
Hey.
we can call Mexico.
Whatever country you're
Um,
in.
I'd love to talk to you from Guadalajara, stuff like that, and talk about more things like this that really matter. Like, people need to understand, like, not many people know it, that there is a huge wall down on the south border of Mexico, because
Yeah.
the stuff that happens down there is horrifying. I mean, even right now, there are places where there are travel advisories that are typical resort places.
Well, the
because
ferry
of
that I was on had a bomb on it, and they
Yeah.
didn't know, and thank goodness it didn't blow up. And just everywhere.
And that
What kind
was-
of fucking
and that
ferry
was
is that?
the
My car was going from
That was the Playa
Cozumel
de
to
Carmen.
Playa.
What the hell's going
Yeah.
on?
That's like one of the most popular tourist spots around.
That was so beautiful. We were thinking about moving there. Not anymore.
No, not anymore. That whole thing.
That's just a little.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Don't let
exactly.
it
Yeah, don't let
forget.
that ruin it. Yeah, if you got your heart set on something, don't let
I
that
don't
ruin
have
it.
my
Yeah.
heart set on that one.
Yeah.
That was just like
Yeah.
we were thinking
We-
about it. We're
We
good.
would love to have you on more. We would love to talk with you more, especially about the concept of your photo blog, Finding Anahata, and the concept of just finding your inner peace, finding that one thing that moves you and following it. That
Okay.
is such a key to inner happiness and inner peace. And once you're at happiness and inner peace with yourself, you'd be amazed what happens with the world around you.
Yeah, you're just happy, and you enjoy it even more.
Yeah.
And you just look at things positively. You just look at things and you just try to find a way to make things always positive, and always
Yeah.
try to find what you have to learn from them.
Well, and you learn to understand that change is not a bad thing. Change may hurt, metamorphosis may hurt, but it also lets you experience life in a different way once you're finished with it.
Right.
Yeah, you learn change is a constant.
Like
Exactly.
the caterpillar never knew what the top of the tree looked like, ever.
Yeah.
The butterfly does.
Exactly. So change is a constant. If you learn to love change, then you'll be happy.
Yep.
Because life is always changing.
Yeah, exactly. So, thank
Sure,
you
glad to
very
be
much
here anytime.
for coming on. We'd love to have you on in future episodes, guys. I'm trying to find out information presently about Meekum, Auto Auction. Julie, I don't know if you're available or not, but it would literally be that Friday. It would be a suicide episode of Dudes and Beer on
I
Friday.
like suicides. Well, I mean,
Like this Friday?
in a good way,
No,
not
like
the bad way.
next
We're fine.
Friday,
yeah.
April.
Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to play it by ear. Brian's mom had struck a couple days ago, so we're probably gonna
Right,
put it out this
everybody
weekend.
keep them in mind, keep Julie and her family, as well as Brian's mother and her family.
With a positive healing thought.
Hey, you're on the air, right? Stay online?
Yeah,
All
why
right.
would we not be online? I didn't know you goodbye yet, Steve.
When
Like, it's been
Goodbye.
3 years, bro. You know what this end of the show sounds like.
You say be good at it.
Oh, no, okay, that's true. That's true, true. Oh, I was gonna ask Mary Mar if it might be a whatever question. Did you ever?
No,
Or
no.
what are you now? I was
It's
wondering.
really close.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course,
But, you know, I don't know.
I'm saying for the next trip is Europe, Poland, and Russia.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of hit on
We'll have
your
her back
accent,
after
kind of.
Yeah.
Okay,
you
cool.
wanna-
Dude,
Yeah.
it's fucking sick. I mean, dude, I have nothing against anybody over there any freaking time. I'm kicking out, give me some bruise, bro. That's
Well,
shit. Yeah.
Be
On-
good
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah,
That'd be
I was gonna
great, man.
say, on that note, everybody, thank
Hey,
you so
yeah,
much
calm down.
once again. Oh man, yeah.
This dude.
Th-
Yeah.
Thank you so much once again, Miramar, for being on the show, for coming on. We look forward to having you on in future episodes, talking to you live from Guadalajara, things like that. Um, Make sure to check out Hot Sauce and Aspirin
Yeah.
for your awesome hangover cures, things like that. Julie is doing an in-depth one-woman study on uh, hangover cures, whether they be true, whether they be false, whether they be snake oil or oil of snake. Um,
Stay away from blowfish. Hotsauceandaspirin.wordpress.com.
There you go. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Check us out soon online. You can always check us out on dudesandbeer.com. You can also check out the free app available on Android. We need to get it back up on iTunes very soon. Until next time, everybody, thank you so much for being here tonight. And remember, if you can't be good, be good at it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our audio streams or chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for Android and iDevices, available on Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Breach.tv, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more about our sponsors and other podcasts on this network, visit hcuniversalnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.